Before commercial break, we were discussing how COVID sort of exacerbated the situation on the ground with respect to housing, both affordability and availability. But, I've seen this at least in Ontario. It's a very good example, and I'm sure it has happened in many jurisdictions where many folks from the larger urban centers have sort of kind of started this sprawl outwards, saying, hey, we need more space, we want more land. Would there be another lockdown potentially coming? We're now going to be working home for the foreseeable future. Let's get out of here and go where there's more land. I've seen many Canadians leave their home province to move to a new province. For example, out east, we've seen record rates in the eastern Canadian housing market. So would that not naturally have a cooling effect? Has that not had any impact on the housing market, Dr. Davidoff?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I think we have not seen rents, and especially urban rents, grow as nearly as quickly, of course, as prices. And part of that is interest rates, that when interest rates come down, you can have an acceleration in prices without growth in rents. The other issue is, where's the rental versus the owner stock? Detached single-family homes in outlying areas are overwhelmingly owner-occupied, whereas apartments in urban cores tend to be renter-occupied. It's easier to have multifamily under single ownership than to have, dispersed single-family homes with the same landlord. An interesting question, of course, is going forward, what's going to be the nature of demand? I think, 80, 90% chance we go back to people really want to be in cities. They don't like sitting in traffic. And, that's been a real hallmark of the millennial generation, but it's been, a trend for years as cities went away from crime and have grown in amenity.
Right.
So that's where we were heading. And then that went, totally exploded with COVID, where people wanted detached and they didn't need to commute. So a long commute wasn't a downside. Now, is work from home going to be a big enough factor that, that trend gets reversed and it's just going to be the rural areas? That would be great for housing affordability, because it's really easy to build where there's plenty of land. It's pretty hard to add new supply where there's already supply in place. But I think that's probably going to go away whenever COVID does, and if COVID goes away.
If COVID goes away, when COVID goes away.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, you and I chatted about, I think, commercial real estate at one point on our show. And I think Thomas's comment is very astute, that when businesses say, kind of recall their workers, okay, everybody come back to your big offices downtown that are sitting empty right now, we want everybody back in, then will all these employees who've upped and moved elsewhere, are they going to be able to either want to make that commute, or B, what if they en masse say, no, we don't want to come back, we want to stay where we are, we want to work from home? Will that cool the market at all?
I think it's interesting, and I think sort of the back to work scenarios that could unfold in 2022 and 2023. I mean, that's probably the topic of a whole conversation or a whole episode. But one thing I will point out is that COVID-19 really put under the microscope a trend that we were already starting to see in the Greater Toronto area, really again since that sort of 2015, 2016 timeframe, where because of the shortage of inventory and tight market conditions and the competition between buyers, we were starting to see an acceleration in out-migration from the GTA proper into the broader Greater Golden Horseshoe. So, places like Hamilton, Kitchener-Waterloo, Barrie, Guelph, Peterborough, those type of areas where, we're already seeing that movement because, either from an affordability perspective or people were looking for a certain type of home or a combination thereof. And then I think, with COVID-19 and the opportunity and requirement to work from home, that even accelerated it further. But basically, it shone the light or magnified, a trend that was already starting to unfold, and a lot of that due to the fact that in the GTA proper, and I'd imagine the Greater Vancouver area as well, the lack of inventory and what that did in terms of price acceleration, prompted that behavior.
And of course, when we think of, you've given two examples, Toronto and Vancouver. Obviously, Vancouver in some way, or I guess in a real way, is bound by, you have mountains, you have an ocean, there are actual real geographical limits to where you can build. In the Greater Toronto area, whether artificial or man-made, we have limits as well with various legislation protecting green belts and whatnot. Well, we're going to pick up this discussion when we return, and I want to focus on what each of the leading federal parties are offering in this election cycle.